I'm writing this from a throwaway account because, honestly, I'm too ashamed to attach my real name to this. I never imagined I'd be in a position like this, feeling humiliated, shattered, and left to face the full weight of my own decisions. My name is Lily. I'm 24. My husband, though now I guess it's more accurate to say ex-husband, is 26. We were married for 3 years after meeting in college. I always believed our relationship was strong. Not perfect, but dependable. Jack was my rock. He was calm, steady, endlessly patient. Now that I look back, I can see how much I took him for granted. How I took everything about him for granted. Our personalities couldn't have been more opposite. Jack was quiet, introverted. He was happiest curled up with a book or lost in a documentary. I was the social one, energized by parties, laughter, the chaos of crowds. I craved attention, but Jack never tried to change me. He came with me to every loud, crowded party, even though I knew he didn't enjoy them. He smiled, made small talk, and stayed by my side, just to make me happy. He never complained. He never made me feel bad for dragging him into situations that drained him. He brought me coffee every morning, remembered how I liked it, skipped his own plans when I needed support, and quietly took care of everything at home. I didn't work. We didn't have kids yet. But he still did the cooking, the cleaning, managed the bills, without ever throwing it in my face. And instead of being thankful, I began to view him as weak. That change started when I reconnected with old college friends. They were still living wild, carefree lives, filled with parties, weekend trips, and impulsive adventures. They told me I was wasting my best years being tied down to someone like Jack. They said I was too vibrant, too fun, too full of life for a man who just blended into the background. And the worst part? I started believing them. One night, after way too many drinks, I made jokes about Jack. I said he'd probably jump off a cliff if I told him to. They laughed. I laughed. I felt powerful. I didn't realize how ugly that kind of power really was. That night wasn't a one-off. I kept making jokes. I let my friends mock him, and I joined in. They called him whipped. Said I wore the pants. I soaked up the attention, addicted to the validation. Jack heard some of it. I know he did. He never confronted me about it. He just stayed the same, gentle, giving, dependable. I took his silence as proof that he'd never leave me, that he loved me too much to walk away. But I was wrong. I started disrespecting him publicly. At dinners, at parties, I'd interrupt him, ignore his opinions, dismiss him in front of others. Slowly, even people around us started following my lead. My treatment of him became the tone others took too. Still, he never raised his voice, never lashed out. He still brought me flowers, still kissed me goodnight, still told me he loved me every morning. And then came the night everything changed. We were at a neighborhood party. Jack was working the grill, smiling as always, serving burgers and chatting politely. I was drinking with my friends when someone made a joke about how well-trained Jack was. I took it further. I laughed and said he was spineless, that he wouldn't know how to say no to me if his life depended on it. I was hamming it up, trying to be funny, milking the attention. The mood shifted. Suddenly, the laughter stopped. Jack was standing right there. He'd heard every word. There was something in his eyes I'd never seen before, calm but hard. Final. He looked at me and simply said, "We need to talk." I followed him, confused and a little nervous, but still thinking he'd forgive me like always. We stepped away from the crowd and he turned to me. His voice was steady. "I'm done being your punching bag," he said. "I gave you everything, and all you've done is tear me down. I'm leaving. Your stuff will be on the porch." Then he walked away. I ran after him, thinking he was bluffing, that I could talk him down. But by the time I got home, My bags were already packed. I broke down. I cried. I begged him to listen. I apologized over and over. But he didn't yell. He didn't argue. He just said, "No more. You don't get to treat me like this and expect me to stay." When I said I wasn't leaving, he told me he'd call the police if I didn't. That's when I knew he meant it. The man I thought would always forgive me had finally reached his limit. So I left that night with just a suitcase and a tear-streaked face. Neighbors saw me walk away, but no one said anything. Not even the so-called friends who used to laugh at my jokes. I see now that they were never really friends to begin with. It's been a few days. I'm staying with my parents. Jack hasn't responded to any of my messages or calls. And maybe he never will. I don't know if this can be fixed. I honestly don't think it can. I destroyed something beautiful. I threw away the love of someone who gave me everything, because I wanted to feel admired by people who didn't actually care about me. I humiliated the one person who truly loved me. Jack finally stood up for himself. And I lost him. I needed to write this, to say it out loud. Maybe people will think I'm a horrible person. Maybe I am. But I had to admit it. I had to own it.